Hi, I'm Courtney and welcome back to Haven's Kitchen. Today we're talking all things cooking oils. There are so many different types of cooking oils and cooking fats out there in the world that sometimes it can be a little tricky for someone to figure out what they should be using in which instance. And we're here to give you the 411 on which cooking oils are going to help you produce the best type of dish. For more home cooking tips and tricks videos, be sure to subscribe to see all of our future content. So extra virgin olive oil is what we at HK reach for the most often. We use it for our baking, we use it for roasting, we use it for a quick saute in a pan. We use it to finish off a pasta or make a vinaigrette over a really beautiful salad. We use it to drizzle over a little bit of crostini or some pita when we want some extra crunch. I always say that it is best for drizzling, not so much for sizzling. And that is because it has a relatively low smoke point in comparison to many other oils. So a high quality olive oil, much like this one, is going to have a smoke point that's relatively low at around 325 to 375 degrees. The higher the quality of your olive oil, the lower you can expect that smoke point to be. And in case you're wondering what a smoke point is, that is essentially the temperature at which an oil or a fat begins to burn. You really want to avoid any of your oils going above and beyond their recommended smoke point temperature because you're going to end up with an acrid sort of burnt taste, which is really not the most enjoyable experience. So your refined olive oil is going to be a whole lot more all-purpose. You can use that to do your high heat baking, your high heat searing on the stove, even your high heat grilling. And we recommend refined olive oil for a majority of your high heat cooking because it has a smoke point of 465 degrees, which means that it can withstand some pretty intense temperatures before it even begins to burn. Another high heat oil that's pretty common is peanut oil. And peanut oil has a smoke point of about 450 degrees, but it actually comes in two varieties. There is an unrefined peanut oil, which has a much stronger peanutty taste. And then there's refined peanut oil, which is a lot more neutral. You'll find that a lot of fast food restaurants actually use peanut oil to do a lot of their frying because it can withstand being used over and over and over again at such high heat. Maybe the oil that's most universally used is vegetable or canola oil. We call these oils neutral oils. They have a very high smoke point, somewhere between 400 and 450 degrees before you start to get that burnt taste. And these are used very frequently for frying, also for stir fries, anywhere where there's a lot of high heat, but you don't necessarily want to add additional flavors to your dish. Another frequently found oil is your grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil also has a pretty high smoke point between 360 and 390 degrees, which is pretty good. It's great for baking. It's great for searing a few things on top of the stove if you'd like to saute perhaps some mushrooms and you want them to get a really good crisp on all of those edges. This can withstand some heat, but it's actually also really high in omega-6 and 9. So if you already have a diet that's pretty high in those fats, then we'd recommend that you use this sparingly. Next, we have avocado oil, which has a smoke point of about 375 to 400 degrees. So really anywhere in that range, I think is going to be a great place for you to land. Avocado oil is exceptionally buttery in terms of taste and also is one of the healthier fats that you can use while cooking. It is also exceedingly expensive. And so while we love avocado oil, we understand that there might be some other things that are more in your range for you at home. Always remember that when you're cooking at home, it's important to use what works best for you. So it's not necessarily going to get the most expensive thing. It is going to be the product that you feel most comfortable with. So now we've got coconut oil, which I feel like has really risen to prominence over the last few years. You're seeing it all over Pinterest and in all of these really cool recipes about how to sub things in for butter. And the wonderful thing about coconut oil is that it is actually a really great swap for butter. Coconut oil also comes in two different formats, so you can either buy it refined or unrefined. Now, unrefined, kind of similarly to our peanut oil here, if you were to use coconut oil that's been unrefined, it's going to have a very strong coconut flavor, whereas our refined coconut oil is much more neutral. Now, when it comes to butter, I always say the butter is best for basting and for browning. And I really love butter because, well, obviously it adds a nice buttery taste, but also it is a beautiful finisher to really any dish that you're making. So if you're cooking a steak at a super high temperature, I'd recommend adding your butter to like those last final minutes of the cooking so that you could sort of baste with that melted butter and get a lot of that great flavor in. But I wouldn't necessarily put the butter in at the beginning of the cooking of my steak, because that's going to ensure that you burn your butter or at least brown it. And if that's not the flavor profile that you're going for, then it ends up being a little unpleasant. Additionally, butter is really beautiful in baking and when browned. And if you have never tried brown butter, we highly recommend making it. It's super simple. Essentially, you just add some butter to a small saucepan. You allow it to melt. You'll notice that your butter begins to do a little bit of a popping. That's the water from our butter evaporating. You're going to find that you're left with milk fat solids, which are essentially these little like toasty brown pieces that kind of get left in your melted butter. And they're going to add that great depth of flavor. They're kind of toasty, it's a little bit nutty. And the milk fat solids sort of turn the color of like a cinnamon. And browning butter really only takes about 5 to 7 minutes total. You just want to watch it very carefully and make sure that it doesn't burn on you. There is a such thing as burnt butter. I guarantee you it's not as delicious as brown butter. So just make sure to watch it very carefully and kind of constantly stir while you're making it so that you end up with a very evenly cooked, evenly toasted, really beautiful and warm and nutty brown butter. It's a simple way to amplify literally any dish. And then lastly, we've got our sesame oils. So sesame oil comes in 2 different formats. You can either get it toasted or regular. Now toasted is going to really have a pumped up, super nutty, very toasty aroma for anything that you're drizzling it on. Untoasted sesame oil has a much more mild flavor, but you will find both toasted and untoasted sesame oil in a lot of Asian cuisine. You'll also find toasted sesame oil in our gingery miso sauce. We don't necessarily recommend cooking with sesame oil or toasted sesame oil very often. They are actually best when drizzled cold over a dish as like a final flourish to bring everything together. All right, so there you have it. These are the basics of most of the cooking oils that you'll run into during your home cooking journey. I hope you found this video helpful, and if so, be sure to like this video and subscribe to see all of our future cooking tips videos. For more information about our favorite extra virgin olive oil, be sure to visit the Pineapple Collaborative website linked down below. Thank you so much for watching, and cook happy.